everyone, welcome once again to the 24-bit podcast. It's the end of the year, so we're going to do, this is a two-part series. We're going to do a two-part bit of this podcast of ours, looking back at the year that has been, the 2024 that has been. It's been a while since we talked to you, but of course a lot of things have happened. We've now come to the tail end of the year, so we're looking back at 2024, basically a year in review podcast kind of thing. So this is the first part. As usual, I'm joined by the usual suspects.
Dixon Otieno from techish.com.
And Nick Anali from Tech Trends.
Good, gentlemen, we are here. Mwaka umeisha, so we are looking back at 2024. So we're just going to go in no particular order. Some of the big happenings in the local tech scene and even globally that have had rambling effects on how we interact, how we live here in Kenya, and all of those things. So we're going to start, like, top of your head, what's been one of the most remarkable things that has happened this year, a development that has happened this year? Yeah.
When you just mentioned that, the only thing that came to mind was Maandamano.
This Maandamano, one of our very first podcasts this year was on AI, specifically generative AI. So there's been that, how it's making inroads. We started the year with AI generated billboards and everything. Nick?
Yeah, of course, locally made phones. It was a big story. Locally in Kenya, locally assembled phones.
Locally assembled phones.
I said made, they're not made here. They're just
yeah.
So that's
so that we are not a propaganda outlet. Very good to create the distinction. So I'll just pick up. And there's digital jobs. Anyone?
Remote tasks.
This has been the year of remote tasks. We've had internet quote unquote shutdown. We discussed it here in another podcast. And that has moved into shutdown of specific apps and the like. And of course there are the phones that we've all used, the gadgets we've reviewed. So I think we can spare the gadgets for part 2.
Yeah.
So let's dive into some of the things that have happened. Maandamano. How has Maandamano shaped our usage of the things that we like, our tech tools, services, products, everything?
I think the biggest realization...
And is there even a premonition for what's to happen in the coming year?
I think the biggest revelation in Maandamano was the government can shut down internet.
Spare the thought on it.
That's the biggest takeaway from that for me.
I mean, you are like treated like, democracy and all that, like other African countries, Kenya actually can't shut down the internet. Actually, we saw it happen. And what that tells you is actually the government can't really do anything.
But we've always known this. Last year there was the
Telegram.
Telegram, which
this year.
This year. But leave alone those. There's been the usage of tech, which we discussed here in depth. You can look at our past podcast. The usage of tech during the protest. There's this walkie-talkie app that has now become the mainstay of cab drivers in Nairobi. So that was one. There was another instance, people are mobilizing through TikTok.
You remember
and
there
Twitter
was a
Spaces,
time,
X Spaces.
Auko kwa Twitter space.
Like so those Maandamano are the ones that made like Spaces on X blow up. Really, like blow up. In the same way, like Clubhouse blew up in the West during COVID, like Spaces blew up in Kenya during the space. You remember that famous space that ran for almost an entire day?
Yes.
Especially when you see that, even from the Maandamano and just how Kenyans were using tech, you can see that it has extended to even now. There's like a silent revolution and people are doing actually online.
The Kasongo silhouettes, right?
So people are like, okay, tukienda Maandamano kwa si tutapigwa tear gas, let's bring the war online. And we've seen a lot of memes, a lot of conversations. We've seen people being arrested for just sharing memes and everything. So the shift has moved from the streets to now.
Even the way we are censoring ourselves, we say must go, and everyone knows exactly
what you say.
You say Kasongo, everyone knows, or you say silhouette, and
everyone knows what's going on.
That's going on, and it's been like a serious evolution. We had the use of ChatGPT to create custom
GPTs to explain.
And last I saw, Nemos had been taken down.
He said it had been taken down.
But we saw new and innovative ways of basically civil protest in an age where
Inorganized,
tech is prevalent and is at your hand. That's one. And then let's get to the shutdown. So the shutdowns happened, and I don't think we've had a proper post-mortem of the shutdown.
The shutdown,
Yes.
not yet.
Yeah.
I saw there was a space organized. You attended.
Oh, the one by Beck.
the one by Beck and Baraza Media. So we were there just talking about what that means, and the premonition. Of course, it was part of the conversation. Should we expect this to happen now in future? Since the government actually took the step and shut down the internet. What are we looking at? And of course, people are talking about how even local telcos are not taking responsibility for that. They keep denying. So no one has actually come out to take a responsibility for that shutdown. Apart from that letter that leaked. The
letter was for the Telegram
for
one,
the
but
Telegram.
for the protests
protest,
from June, July,
Nothing
we've
has
had
been
no
said.
ownership. There's really nothing on paper. Like we don't know. All we have is, of course, an analysis because of everything that was happening then.
Yeah.
True.
Qualitative analysis and everything, but there's nothing official from the government at all.
Yeah, even how of course Safaricom came under attack, on that day, and we've seen of course the CEO Peter Ndegwa, showing up on TV interviews, of course denying that as well. So but we still haven't gotten that official statement from just anyone admitting, we did this and we are sorry.
I don't think there will be a statement because it was so obvious.
It's the same way no one admits to these abductions. Moving on swiftly, Maandamano, the protests period also showed us how information can be empowered for proper misuse. So we're talking about misinformation and disinformation campaigns. Disinformation on the part of the government, misinformation on the part of the citizens, because usual government propaganda machine was on overdrive. Drive
True.
specific narratives, posting. You saw the GayZ hashtag. All of those things, like they were trying to say the protests are being fueled because by people wanting to promote gay rights and all of those things, like because they know Kenya is a conservative society, a way of antagonizing the population to make these protests appear unpopular. We've seen the use of news cards that are doctored to say things that are really not happening. That's on the government patch. Then the citizens responded it aura for aura, which basically is misinformation from the citizens to counter the disinformation campaigns by the government. And I don't know if we've sat back to look at the long-term effects that will have. It's what essentially that has meant is there are lots of authoritative people you follow, and since we are all in this aura for aura business, you never know when I'm saying the truth. When I'm not saying the truth.
When you're having such a situation in a country where government is always pushing a narrative and kuna influencers always pushing a narrative, so it gets to a level where everyone wants to push something because you are attacking the other party, whichever way to win, not on facts.
But we've seen, of course, since it's aura for aura, if we see, for example, someone post a fake a fake thing about, for example, the government, the president, the way this hate is going on right now, we're like, okay, apana, since we are hating, no, it's true.
It's true. People are ready to hate even with lies.
Yeah, with
and
lies,
I think that will get us to what's happening in the US.
Because 2024 is the year, at least on a global basis, we saw the return of Donald Trump. A good bit of it now, I know we are veering off the script, but it's relevant. A good chunk of it can be attributed to lots of changes that happened starting before 2024, including the acquisition of Twitter by Elon Musk, branding to X, saying is promoting free speech. By free speech here, they mean things that are pertain to the West and the US. For us here, they muzzled the Finance Bill 2024 hashtag Kenya Kwanza. So that's the same platform purporting to promote free speech. So free speech applies to the Americans. So in that context of free speech, they allowed all these things that previously would get you shadow banned or properly banned to come back. And that's how, alongside many other factors, we found ourselves with Trump once again.
Damn, all that happened in 2024.
2024 has been a long year.
It's been a long year. Because if you are to remember, we started the year with Gen AI. We were alarmed that first week of January, the AI generated billboards starting with big advertisers in
I am so glad they died away, Polepole. It was a hype.
Yeah, it was a hype. It didn't last. We did a whole podcast episode looking at that. We didn't know what
I think
will
our
happen.
first episode of the year.
Yeah. But then here we are. But have we seen a continued adoption of AI and / generative AI further? Because we'll talk about the phones in the next episode. But we got everyone doing quote unquote AI on their phones and everything. Yeah.
Of course, the conversation around AI is still there. We've seen a lot of companies hold conferences on AI,
Especially this December.
Yeah, December.
The Decembers are disingenuous because everyone is trying to clear their budget.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, can they give us some of that money? Okay. Yeah, because we've seen.
You're listening. Please bring it on.
Yeah, we've seen. I think I've seen like a company also reduce. Companies actually reduce.
Accept.
Yeah, we've seen, of course, remember the first postcard we heard about, for example, Safaricom using AI generated images. We've seen that reduce. Ama ni mimi sijaona mingi sana. We've seen
Mostly because there was also backlash.
People are tired.
You
can't be telling us about something and using images that don't make sense.
Okay. Moving on swiftly. We talked. Now 2024 has also been almost like a replica of 2023 when it comes to some of the things we talked about. In 2023 we started with a very big episode on Loop, and we followed it up with Showmax, and Showmax again came back
with a
this year. That rebrand everything.
Showmax
We did an
2.0.
episode, right?
Yeah, we did a whole episode.
We did a new episode.
Showmax did not. I think there was a response. I can't remember.
They did. It was a bangle launch. They've since gotten their act together, because I've just cancelled my subscription the other day, not for anything, just to rein in on my costs on those subscription services. But throughout my 3 months of usage, it was stable, it was fine, it was okay, even though there's the bit where they never carried on my watch history on the previous platform.
And they removed football.
They removed football and
TV
kept it
on
mobile only for whatever reasons. There was that. I've had 2 of my brothers join college, and in Kenya that means using a government platform. The Kenya University
August University funding model.
No, we are getting to the funding model, but there's the Central Placement Service, which
the website was down in February.
For those of us who are sold as the hills, we used to call the Joint Admissions Board, JAB. So it meant a painful process of going through the COOPS portal. It was down for most of the time. That was January, February
up to March.
Exactly. So I don't know.
They had to. What did they do? They had to move the selection process because kuna watu wengi who are not.
So if you are listening to this and somebody who's just cleared high school, this is probably something they're going to face early next year, because I doubt the government has fixed
anything. That website has been that old since Sijui Lidi. Anyway.
2024 has also been the year of the government's forays into offering people jobs. I don't know how they are looking at that, quote unquote offering. So if you're not going to be a boda rider in Arabia, you can also earn so much money, according to President Ruto, via remote tasks and all those other platforms in Kenya. So this is the year we saw that. But and also
this is the year remote tasks left the market.
Exactly. And a lot of that was actually misinformation on the part of the president and his handlers, because none of those things are happening.
True. I have a sibling who attended this drive kupeleka watu sijui majuu by Alfred Mtu. I don't know what role Alfred Mtu has in government, but they attended the event in Nakuru and they said it was a sham because they were sat outside waiting, and then some people approached them asking them, do you want to speak on TV? And then you're given a script, you say mi nimepata kazi ya kwenda wapi, ya kufanya nini hivyo.
So it's just a script.
Okay.
Wow.
I don't know
some of these are too obvious
wameenda kwa TV wenye tumeona wakienda kwa Twitter kama wameenda ukweli ama ni whatever, but
PR campaign.
Yeah, it's always very hard to tell whether these guys are lying or it's actually happening.
Some of those lies are very apparent. You saw the one that Mutua was with in at Baringo. Baringo, what?
Yeah, and
Polytechnic or
somebody
something.
was
And somebody-
interviewing.
using a $1,000 iPad with a magic keyboard.
Like,
Yo,
yeah.
that doesn't happen in rural Kenya.
And then the comments on the video are, that person is the PA,
to the governor or somebody in Baringo. Stay with government. This is the year where we started the year with chaos on the electronic travel authorization.
Yes.
I think we mentioned it in a previous podcast
Yeah.
episode.
Yes.
While we are all pro-tech and we like government embracing tech platforms, what this translated to was chaos. And by
at the
this
end
time
of
in
the year,
December,
have
our
fallen.
passport, visa
Yes,
ranking, visa index
Went down. Yeah.
yeah. So essentially,
Instead of
if you're
going up,
if you're a foreigner, you go online, you apply for your visa.
you're
at least
supposed to pay
72 hours before
24 to 72
departure.
hours.
You pay what, $34, something like
Depending
that.
on the country.
Yeah.
And it was shambled up because some countries have no visa policy for Kenya. For example, South Africa, Rwanda, I don't know what. And then originally their citizens were being asked to pay. So it was supposed to be on reciprocity.
Reciprocity.
Yeah, but sasa unapata South Africans coming to Kenya are being asked to pay when sisi tunaweza enda airport sahii tuende SA bila kuulizwa kulipa. So it brought a whole problem.
Yeah.
And we are potentially looking at the same chaos start of next year. Not
Yes.
for the travel authorization, but for the phone.
For the IMEI,
Oh,
yes.
yeah. My problem is when you see, for example, a service or a new idea you brought in that's working, how long does it take for you to actually change that? Like, okay, yeah, this is gonna mess us up. Let's change that.
I don't know if there's anyone kwa government mwenye alisoma how to handle a new, what are they called, app ama process. You can shut down one
changeovers. System
changeover.
changeovers.
Kenyan government likes to have a timeline to shut down the other one, start the other.
Yeah.
That's
But
what happened.
It
with
doesn't.
Sha.
It doesn't work because you're supposed to run things parallel, so that you see all the problems from this other side and you try to solve them. But Kenya tunaanzanga tu na poop.
Direct changeovers. Because they are direct changeovers, they are parallel changeovers. You can do piloting. Yeah.
We never pilot, we never parallel. Tunaenanga tu boom.
Yeah.
Now, still staying with the government things, this was the year where we got, quote unquote, Kenya-made phones. We said that the phones assembled in Kenya.
Yeah.
How's that going? I saw some numbers a while back.
I received
Those
one
numbers
of
you
the
saw them?
units.
They said,
not
they
the
said how many
numbers.
phones have been assembled, 100,000 or something.
So
I don't know about the numbers.
I'm not sure about
But beyond the review units you guys had, I also had one. Have you guys seen those phones out in the wild?
Not any, and none that's branded made in Kenya or in Kenya, because even the unit I received, once you open it, it was just written made in China. So I don't know.
I was actually now apart from of course the Gava with their own, MCOP also is doing the same. So and I think I was part of the meeting that went to their plant on Mombasa Road a couple of I think weeks ago, and MCOP was talking about assembling over 1.5 million phones in Kenya by now.
Mkopa assembling?
1.5 million
million
phones
phones.
in Kenya, and their target is to reach 10 million locally produced and sold affordable smartphones by 2027.
Okay, the story is this. I think we just live in a country where people don't want to say the truth.
Yeah.
There has been an assembly line in Kenya for the longest time. I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 years.
Exactly.
So the assembly line has partners. Safaricom joined as a partner, and Popa is part of the partnership.
JTI.
I don't know which other company is part of the partnership. But we had a very weird CS or ICT who wanted to promise
Gor Mahia affairs.
who wanted to promise more than was being done.
Yeah.
So that's why we had this charm of we are launching a production facility and all that will be producing what and what, when it's something that had already been happening. That's why up to date you're not seeing exactly the new phones or anything.
Yeah.
The same neon phones that we used to see, some of them were already being assembled locally.
Yeah.
There's nothing new that happened. It was just, from my perspective, let us be seen to be working.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because remember we've been using the neon phones the first
Longest
exactly,
time,
exactly.
And those ones actually being
most
made
of them
here.
have been assembled locally. So I don't know what was happening, but it was just, let us be seen to be working because MWC Rwanda was happening and they had promised to be what in MW.
Okay, makes sense. Yeah.
And somebody had made repeated promises. We
Yes.
will have a Kenya-made phone by
Yes.
this. We will have
Yes.
a 100. Was it a
$100,
$50 phone
yes.
by this? So it was just ticking.
Say his name.
Him who shall not be named. Actually, I've just checked, and there's a statement from the PS for Principal Secretary for ICT, John Tanui. He says 2 million smartphones had been assembled in the country by end of October. So
There was this argument that of these 2 million, some are being given to the Ministry of Health. A huge percentage of those phones were given to the Ministry of Health during the COVID, during the pandemic. So utapata out of these 2 million, how many 2 million?
2 million, but
Yeah.
but pandemic
days.
was Kenyatta days, surely.
Out of these 2 million, utapata maybe at 1.5 were given
But
to
they
them,
never say the
to
dates,
government
the 2 million.
agencies.
So
Then, yeah, but I love what M-Kopa is actually, because M-Kopa is part of the HMD Global. When you look at the phones M-Kopa is producing with the HMD, they're better off than actually what the neon phones. Yeah, there's the HMD X20. Is it X20?
We look at those in the next up.
But yeah, so the ones HMD is making with M-Kopa, they're actually way better off than the neon phones.
Oh, that has reminded me. This year is also just last week, Kenya assented to a law that now BNPL will be regulated by central.
Because buy now, pay later.
Because M-Kopa markups are crazy.
You go to the village, you'll see how those guys really frustrate people on their products. It's a very
Interesting. Being the year of AI, this year we got to see Apple Intelligence. All of you are Apple device users. How has that been?
There's nothing to talk about.
Thank you.
Being an Android user, and all of us are Android users actually. We've also seen Android 15 come. I've seen an interesting article
I think this is the year where Android 15 was so
underwhelming.
Underwhelming. There's literally nothing I can point out and say Android 15 brought this.
I've seen an article on your site by Alfred. Which just further underscores that point. And also in a first, we also got to see the first developer preview of the preview of Android 16.
Android 16.
This year. So we're already going into next year. We already have a good look at how that is supposed to look like. Now, something else happened before we get to Starlink and the internet and all of that. Shifsha.
Yes, this was October.
Government service online.
Yes.
The kind of stuff that we salivate over, but of course, there's been the specifics in terms of number one, the platform itself is not robust or working, and 104 billion shillings are supposed to be spent there, or they've been spent. I have no idea. That bit. And it's been a shit.
Then there was the problem where people got SMSs that they had been transferred from NHIF to SHIF without their consent.
All of those things. Now, this the year we finally got to see a satellite internet provider enter the Kenyan market. And of course, when you're talking that type of market, that market is almost wholly owned by Starlink. So Starlink came to Kenya. And
then in April they launched partnership with Jumia. For the first time, people could buy directly, not from the website Starlink, but from Jumia.
And we even they went further.
They went into supermarkets. They went
everywhere.
into Carrefour, Naivas.
They only stopped short of being like DSTV and camping outside parking
outside the parking
and on the streets. But we also got those kits at very good prices. 29,999 was the price for the standard kit at some point. That promo ran for like a month.
It ran for a while.
Now we have the mini for 27,999.
326, I don't know.
They're about.
Ken told me what it for almost 29,000 shillings.
The mini. Should be 27,999. I think that was the launch price. But the mileage will vary. And there's a whole TikTok movement where guys, because the Starlink accessories are expensive and people don't envisage how they're going to mount them, there are no local fabricators. You can get if you live in a tricky apartment where
you can get people to.
You're in a room where the sun doesn't shine, Starlink can still be mounted creatively and you'll still pick up a signal. But that's not why you're talking about Starlink. It triggered something. Number one was this demands to the regulator by both Safaricom and GT.
Yes. This came before CA announced the numbers where Starlink is now the 10th largest
largest,
ISP.
yeah.
So we saw pushback from Safaricom and other, what are they called, telcos, demanding that CA has authority or regulation around satellite internet providers, demanding that they partner with local telcos for implementation and distribution.
Yeah. There's something else people really missed that happened still around Starlink that happened in November, just last month. This company called Paratas Group, you've heard of it. It's a telecommunications company. It's African based. So they launched in Kenya and their sole focus is just installing and providing Starlink services.
Yes,
Yeah.
Paratas.
Yes, they're called Paratas.
So
yeah.
they are giving Karibu Connect.
Exactly,
them and-
exactly, yeah. So they launched in
because
Kenya in September,
For
in
those
November.
listening, Karibu Connect was like the official resellers of Starlink kits in Kenya. Yeah.
So, but they're working with it's a joint venture between, of course, Paratas, another company, an ISP called Move On Telecoms. You've heard of them? It's actually a local,
Never.
Yeah. it's a local company.
Anyway, Starlink also triggered something. We now enjoy at least double speeds, right?
Yes. So we can, I don't know what we can attribute it to, either Maandamano and the backlash, ama Starlink and the backlash, because in September, Safaricom announced upgrading speeds for all
Yeah.
packages. So if you're on 40, 80, then this was the first time they introduced 1 Gbps.
And we actually tested it too, yeah.
Yeah, and we got to enjoy 1 Gbps. The only problem, I don't know if we should do it as a podcast, but the problem is the routers. We are still using Wi-Fi 4 routers.
I have a Wi-Fi 6 router from
Safaricom.
Yes.
Yeah, someone told me they're thinking of...
They called me one day, told me, "Are you in your house?" "Yes, we want to upgrade your router." I told them, "Come." They came. I've had it for more than a year, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, someone whispered they're thinking about rolling out, replacing those routers in every household. I don't know how long that will take, but I think there's a plan to do that.
Replace. Yeah, so my major problem with the 1 Gbps was the router can theoretically hit the speeds, but now sharing of, the way new Wi-Fi standards allow you to connect multiple devices, share resources and all that. So right now, if you connect it via Ethernet, it's fine. But my phone connecting to the router, you don't get the full speeds.
Staying with Safaricom, this day we've seen them rebrand Mali.
Rebrand, no.
It's
a whole new
product.
It's a whole new
replacing,
product.
or is
Not
it existing
replacing.
side by side?
Yes.
What
So
is it?
Business Daily has an article saying there has been internal fighting between Genghis Capital and Safaricom for Mali.
Yeah.
Then Safaricom goes and partners with another capital. What are they called? I've forgotten their name, to launch ZD.
Those money
Yes.
market.
So they are running parallel to each other.
So in the future,
Ideally,
they staying all
I
together,
have
or one
no
will be phased
idea.
out?
Right now I'm on both, but there are people who, when ZD launched, they were moved from Mali
actually,
to
yeah,
ZD.
that happened to me.
Yeah, but then there are people who, when Mali, ZD launched, they were told they can't join both. But right now, I am on both. Mali is making 13 point something interest per day. ZD is making 11 point something.
Trust me, I was moved from Mali to ZD. Now I can't use Mali.
Yeah. So there is some weird thing going on. But the Business Daily article is our only source of information that there is
Source
in
of
fight.
tea.
Yes.
When you open ZD and you open Mali, they look exactly the same. There was a time
The
when
interface
ZD
actually,
opened, the FAQs are ZD, literally copied word for word. FAQs are Mali, including leaving the word Mali in some of them.
Okay. We also got to say M-Pesa Ratiba. What do you guys have to say about it?
Never
Tried
used it.
using it, yeah, but
Never used it.
Ratiba is the
It was one of the
payments,
biggest
yeah,
stories.
standing order.
standing
Never
orders.
used
Yeah.
it.
Anyway, I think also our bills went up.
Yes.
TV hiked prices for so many times.
Rice this year.
Yeah. And Spotify prices are up.
Spotify went up. A lot of other things went up because of 16%.
Yeah. Thank God a lot of the provisions that were doomsday from the finance bill
were dropped. Yeah, because things will be double.
But some have been secretly passed somewhere.
Of course,
for another day.
Our favorite discussion on our blogs and on this podcast is usually phones. So we're coming to phones in part 2 of our end of year,
Where we will mention Masoko.
yeah,
Friday deal,
the
Masoko.
Black Friday deals. Yeah, there've been so many deals out here that you can take advantage of. Anyway, thank you for listening in. I've been your host, Chenzi Manuel.
Dixon Otieno.
And Nick Canali.
Make sure to listen to part 2 of this podcast. See you there.